You ever feel like you're just running? I know I do. It feels like we're all in this constant race. But have you ever just stopped for a second and asked, what are we even running towards? Well, today, we're going to unpack a book that asks that exact question. It's about a final class on how to live, taught by a professor who's standing right at the very edge of life.
Okay, let's really dive into this. We're always chasing something, aren't we? A better job, a bigger car, a more impressive life. It's like we think we have all the time in the world, but in that haze, we kind of forget to actually live. So what's really waiting for us at the finish line of this crazy race?
This is the script, right? The one society hands us from day one. The book calls it a kind of brainwashing, this constant, nagging push for more. And we get so caught up in the race that we totally lose sight of who we are. Which actually brings us to our narrator.
So, meet Mitch Albom. This guy was the absolute poster child for the rat race. He had it all. The money, the fame, the awards. You know, everything society tells you is success. But deep down, he felt completely empty. Just this void. He was so busy climbing that ladder, he forgot who he was.
And then one night, boom, a flickering image on a TV screen changes his entire life. It's like he was suddenly enrolled in one last, super profound course. Not in some stuffy lecture hall, but a class on, well, on life itself.
So Mitch is just watching TV one night, and he sees this familiar face. It's his old college professor, Morrie Schwartz, a guy he hadn't thought about in years. And the story was that Morrie was dying from ALS, this really cruel disease that was, well, it was basically turning his body to stone.
Now, even though Morrie's body was failing him, his mind was sharper than ever. So Mitch goes to visit, thinking he's going to comfort his old sick professor. But what happened was the complete opposite. The roles totally flipped. The dying professor started teaching him how to live. And just like that, every Tuesday, that became their classroom.
All right, so lesson number 1. What's the first subject on the syllabus? It's the one thing our culture does everything to avoid: death.
Morrie's approach to all this suffering was, wow, just fascinating. He told Mitch, look, I give myself a little time to cry every morning, but that's it. After that, he totally shifted his focus to everything he still had. His mind, the love from his friends, students like Mitch showing up. He didn't ignore the pain, but he absolutely refused to let it drown him.
So why are we all so terrified of death? Morrie had this really profound idea about it. He said, look, it's not death itself we're afraid of. No, what we're really afraid of is getting to the end and realizing we never really lived. That's the real dread, isn't it? That we won't wake up and start living before our time is up.
And that right there, that is the absolute key. Once you really truly accept that your time here is finite, everything changes. Your priorities just click into place. You stop sweating the small stuff because you get it. Every single moment is precious.
Okay, so let's move on to the next lesson because it builds directly on this idea. Once you've made peace with mortality, the next logical step is to start questioning all the stuff society tells you is important.
From the day we're born, our culture just hammers this one idea into our heads. More is good. More money, more followers, more stuff. And the promise is always the same, right? Get all that, and then you'll finally be happy. Well, Morrie called that the biggest lie of all. He said if you buy into that game, you're always going to feel hungry, always going to feel empty, because it's never, ever enough. Sure, a new gadget might give you a quick thrill, but it's not going to give you that deep, lasting fulfillment.
So what's the alternative? Morrie's answer was so simple: give. Real meaning in life doesn't come from what you get, it comes from what you give. When you actually help people, when you're a real part of your community, that's where you find a purpose that, let's be honest, no amount of money can ever buy.
And this is where Morrie's teaching gets really powerful. He basically tells you, hey, you don't have to just accept society's default settings. You can literally build your own culture, your own rules, your own values. You get to decide what success and happiness look like for you. And when you do that, you kind of become immune to all that outside noise.
Which brings us right to the heart of Morrie's final class. If all that stuff, the money, the status, if that's not what's important, then what is? For Morrie, the answer was crystal clear. Love. That's it. End of story. He said it's the only truly rational act when you get right down to it.
I mean, just think about it for a second. When you're at the end of your life, are you going to be thinking about your car, your bank account? No way. You're going to remember the moments you share with people you love.
Morrie's body was failing, but his room was always packed with love. From friends, from family. That made him the richest guy in the world, emotionally speaking. Your relationships, that's the only investment that really pays off in the end.
And this was Morrie's just beautiful take on what a legacy is. It's not about the stuff you leave behind. You live on in the hearts and memories of the people you've touched. If you leave love behind, a part of you is always here. You never really die.
Okay, so Morrie also had this super practical technique for dealing with tough emotions. You know how we usually try to run away from sadness or fear, or just stuff it down? Well, he had this totally different approach, kind of inspired by Buddhism. He said, when a big wave of emotion comes, don't fight it. Just let it wash over you. Feel it completely, without judgment. And then, once you've really experienced it, you detach from it. You let it go. He'd literally say, I feel it, and then I detach.
So as the weeks ticked by, Morrie's body got weaker and weaker. But somehow, his lessons just got more and more powerful. And all of this was leading up to his final class, his graduation.
At one point, Mitch asks Morrie, okay, if you had just one more perfectly healthy day, what would you do? And you'd think he'd say, travel the world or something huge. But his answer was so ordinary and so beautiful. Just a simple breakfast, lunch with friends, a walk, a little dancing. It's an amazing reminder, isn't it? That when you get close to the end, you don't crave the spectacular. You finally see the magic in just a normal, ordinary day. And Morrie's death wasn't really the end of the class. For Mitch, it was more like the final exam. The real graduation was seeing if he could actually apply all these lessons to his own life. And he did. He reached out to his brother, who he hadn't spoken to in years. He totally changed his priorities. And he wrote this book, which is kind of like his final paper for the course, making sure Morrie's wisdom would live on.
So, in the end, this book is this incredible reminder that a good life isn't about the big, flashy achievements. It's about a whole collection of small, everyday moments filled with love. And it leaves us with this one last powerful thought. Your most important class? It's in session right now. The real question is, are you paying attention?